What's happening, guys? My name is Daniel Eduardo, and this is my story. I'm not gonna lie, I've always found it a little bit hard to share my stories, just simply because I was just a normal kid. I was a normal kid with normal friends that went to a normal school, had good grades, went to university. Like stuff was cool with me. Born in Portugal, my parents were missionaries. They love me to bits. They're still missionaries out in Portugal. So I was brought up in a Christian household. So I always knew about Jesus. Growing up, I would hear the Bible stories about Jesus and what he did for me and how much he cared about me and how much he loved me. And I genuinely believed it. But I think it was around the age 13, 12, 13 that I generally made the decision to follow Jesus. And for me, was looking at a history. At that point, I started to develop the real love for history. So I started looking and researching. As a 13-year-old kid would do, I started researching about the historical person of Jesus, as well as looking at nature, looking at the mountains, looking at the sea, looking at the forest. I'm thinking like, damn, man, there has to be more to life than this. There has to be someone greater than us for this to be here. And it was at that point that I truly made the decision to follow Jesus. But the reason why I've always struggled to share my story is because I never really had this moment of complete shift where I was like, living a certain way, and then God steps into my life, which he does into many lives, into all of our lives, that God steps in and he changes stuff. But there was never really this radical, whoa, all of a sudden my life is completely changed. My life is completely different. Man, I don't really have a horror story at all. But one thing I do realize that I find myself so many times just kind of looking for purpose and looking for a sense of identity. And even as I speak with people, that's what many people say. They're looking for a sense of identity. They seem to have everything sorted at home, but nevertheless, there's something kind of missing within them. This sense of identity, this sense of purpose. Well, let me tell you something. You don't find your purpose or your identity in what other people say about you. So many times we even hear, be the best version that you can be. And that's saying, you know what, I don't think that's true either. But be the version that God has called you to be, because that's the best version you could ever be. It's not you trying to be the best you, but it's you being the one that God has called you to be. That's where you find your true identity. Your purpose is found in Jesus. And man, when I realized that, the whole way of seeing myself completely shifted. I used to compare myself a lot to people, maybe what I saw on TV, maybe what I saw on the billboards and the movies. And one of my biggest issues is actually the color of my skin, mixed race. But unfortunately, in my community, in the school that I used to go to, even within church, there'll be loads of racism. People trying to push me aside and say, you know what, you can't be with us because you're different to us. And I remember going home and crying, not liking the reflection that I saw in the mirror. I just wanted to be accepted. But once I've realized that my identity is not based on what they say about me, but my identity is based on what he says about me. The whole way of seeing myself completely shifted. I love the color of my skin because I know that God made me this way. And maybe right now you're feeling like you have no sense of purpose, no sense of identity. Be who God has called you to be. Your purpose is found in Jesus. So what's my story? I brought up in a Christian household, loving parents, loving family, made the decision to follow Jesus for real at the age of 12, 13. And then ever since then, I've been on this journey, adventure, ups and downs, but it's been an adventure. But I know that in the midst of this adventure, that Jesus has been with me throughout the whole journey. Throughout my whole life, I've seen God's faithfulness in my schooling, education, in my relationships, in my friendships, with work, with everything. I've seen God's faithfulness. God is a faithful God. What he said he would do, he will do. Thank you so much for listening. See you guys in a bit.